Steve.
And I'm Crystal.
And welcome to Cafe Biblos.
Before we get started today, I wanted to give a shout out to my Aunt Sherry and Uncle Mark.
Howdy.
As many of you know, my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and I received this mug in the mail from my aunt and uncle. For those who may not be able to read it, it says Jesus and coffee on it, and it is a perfect fit for Cafe Biblos and a wonderful gift. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying our show. Thank you.
So, what have we got today, besides this wonderful caramel macchiato in my cup?
Today we've got Psalm 9, which is all about praising God as the righteous King of the world.
Sounds like a great subject. That will be a great pick-me-up for the week. Not unlike this wonderful bean juice that we're sipping this morning.
You are really into your coffee this morning. What's up?
What can I say? It's 6 a.m., hon. This is a beautiful thing. Anywho, let's take a look.
Okay. To the choir master, according to the Mutlabane, a psalm of David, I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. I will recount all of your wonderful deeds. I will be glad and exult in you. I will sing praise to your name, O Most High. When my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before your presence, for you have maintained my just cause. You have sat on the throne, giving righteous judgment. You have rebuked the nations. You have made the wicked perish. You have blotted out their name forever and ever. The enemy came to an end in everlasting ruins. Their cities you rooted out. The very memory of them has perished. But the Lord sits enthroned forever. He has established his throne for justice, and he judges the world with righteousness. He judges the peoples with uprightness. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. Sing praises to the Lord, who sits enthroned in Zion. Tell among the peoples his deeds. For he who avenges blood is mindful of them. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted. Be gracious to me, O Lord. See my affliction from those who hate me. O you who lift me up from the gates of death, that I may recount all your praises, that in the gates of the daughter of Zion I may rejoice in your salvation. The nations have sunk in the pit that they have made, in the net that they have hid. Their foot has been caught. The Lord has made himself known. He has executed judgment. The wicked are snared in the work of their own hands. Higgaion, Salah. The wicked shall return to Sheol, all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, and the hope of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord, let not man prevail. Let the nations be judged before you. Put them in fear, O Lord. Let the nations know that they are but men. Salah.
So, believe it or not, we don't really have any words we really need to define here. But we do want to kind of redefine a term that you already know. It's the word righteousness. So far in the Psalms, we've seen this word a lot, and for the most part, we've seen it as meaning that we're doing what's right. That is, that we're living in such a way that is good and that brings about peace. In terms of God, we've seen that he is a righteous king in that he makes right judgments and deals with the people rightly in order to bring peace. And that's what the first half of this psalm is all about, that God deals with the wicked rightly, as well as those who are righteous.
But in this psalm, there's another part of righteousness talked about that we haven't quite yet covered. You remember how we've said that righteousness is all about relationships, treating everyone and everything around us in a way that produces an environment of peace and encourages love and life to grow around us. But it turns out that righteousness is more than just doing what is morally right in your own life. It is also about taking care of those around you, particularly the poor and oppressed.
You know, verse 9 starts saying things like how God is a stronghold for the oppressed and how people turn to Him in difficult times because they trust Him to take care of them. It goes on to say that He doesn't forget the cry of the afflicted and needy. In verse 14, David says something kind of strange as well.
Yeah, he says, "In the gates of the daughter of Zion, I may rejoice in your salvation."
And this is a particularly interesting phrase. There are several times when the gates of the city are mentioned in connection with the poor. For example, Proverbs 22, verse 22 says not to rob the poor or to crush the afflicted in the city gates. So why are the poor and the city gates so often mentioned in connection with each other?
Well, it turns out that in ancient times, the cities were responsible for the people not just in the city, but in the country around the city. So the city was sort of a beacon to the people in the outlying country for hope that that city is where I can find help when I'm in need. The city gates served many important roles. They were kind of like the community center of the city. The elders would meet there, vendors would set up their shops at the city gates, and set up a marketplace called a shok.
Shuk.
Which...
Shok. And then there are these large rooms on the side of the city gates that archaeologists have found rather puzzling. They've found regular pottery there, not military stuff like you'd find in barracks for soldiers or anything like that, but instead just regular dishes, pots, and stuff you'd find in someone's house. Well, it turns out that the archaeologists are beginning to think that these were places that the poor would come to find help, like a hot meal, maybe a place to find shelter. Essentially, they seem to be homeless shelters provided by the city. Now read that verse again.
It seems that God's city is supposed to provide help for the afflicted and the poor as part of His righteousness. His city is supposed to be a beacon of hope for the afflicted and the oppressed. And we're not only talking about spiritual salvation here.
Well, we'll leave this cup with you and end with this question. What do you think? Do you think the afflicted and oppressed look to Christians as a beacon of hope for salvation, both spiritually and physically? Why or why not?
That's all we've got for today. We hope you enjoy your coffee this morning, and we'll see you next week.
In the meantime, good morning. Ha! I got it right!
Yeah, you did!